Tonight, local businesses are crying foul as the opening of the Eglinton Crosstown is being pushed back yet again.
They literally do half price, do giveaways, do a whole heap of stuff to encourage people to take the drive down to Eglinton, you know.
Metrolink says it can't make its original plan to start trains running next year. We'll tell you what the delay means for those who live and work on Eglinton. Plus,
look, you can read that one, but what the is that?
if you find this license plate hard to read, you're not alone. Tonight, the province is taking heat over the new Ontario plates. And with factories in China temporarily halting production due to COVID-19 concerns, how long before Ontario businesses start feeling the effect? Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Two city councillors are calling on the province tonight to compensate businesses along Eglinton after Metrolinx announced it is pushing back the opening of the new Crosstown LRT once again. As Natalie Nanowski tells us, many small retailers worry they won't make it through another 2 years of construction and disruptions.
Literally forcing people, I have to literally do half price, do giveaways, do a whole heap of stuff to encourage people to take the drive down to Eglinton, you know.
That wasn't the case when Alwyn Nurse opened his tattoo parlor in what he knew was an up-and-coming location. But after years of LRT construction, he's lost a lot of business.
That's not changing. It's not like, okay, it's been slow on Eglinton. Eglinton has construction. Here's a break, you know. We don't get that.
We have to have some compensation for the small business tenants so they can survive.
What could be another 2 years. Today, Metrolinx announced the Eglinton Crosstown won't open until sometime in late 2022.
We are right in the middle of negotiations on the commercial items that underpin the schedule. I don't want to declare a date yet.
The reason for the delay? Difficulty tunneling under Eglinton Station and productivity issues with Crosslinks, the private consortium building this project.
We've already lost maybe 150 businesses. We may lose another 100.
Along with financial aid, councillors in the area want construction barricades removed to encourage foot traffic. And they're asking the province to focus on parts of the line that are nearly done.
What if they're able to open it up between Cedarvale Station at the Allen, which would then connect people going west or coming from the west onto the subway line?
No word yet if that's even feasible. Today, the transportation minister used the new delay to slam the previous Liberal government and to bolster a new piece of legislation.
What this bill proposes is ways to streamline measures that government is in control of, and things like permitting around the transit corridor.
For businesses like nurses, that comes a few years too late.
I have customers like literally don't come down here no more because of the construction.
Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Oh, plenty on the agenda at Queen's Park this week as MPPs return to the legislature for the first time this year. As Lisa Shing tells us, license plates, education, and autism dominated the conversation in the House today.
Parents of children with autism welcomed legislators back to Queen's Park today, asking the government to implement a needs-based therapy faster.
If these children have a hard enough life as it is, they need to not be waiting. They need what is owed to them. It is a medical necessity.
The government says it's in the process of creating a new program. Some services will be ready by the end of this year, with the rest coming in 2021.
This is what you're going to have to do on the final.
Meanwhile, teachers' unions and the province are still at a stalemate. The English Catholic teachers will head back to the bargaining table, but if there isn't an agreement by next week, teachers will begin rotating strikes. And to ramp up the pressure, millions of kids will be out of class Friday for a province-wide strike.
It's not lost on us that this is having a human impact, financially, emotionally, and otherwise, on all the parties, including most importantly our parents.
Nothing! It's just blue!
Another big talker in the House and online, an issue with Ontario's new license plates.
Why is the government scrapping perfectly good white plates when their glowing propaganda plates are problematic?
The opposition grilled the government on the blue plates that rolled out earlier this month after several photos posted online show they can't be read in the dark, including one from a police officer. Ontario's Consumer Services Minister defended the new plates in various ways.
We're using modern technology that's already been employed in other provinces and states, and we welcome people's feedback.
Police say they were consulted before the plates were rolled out, but have been hearing complaints from officers.
It's not unusual for new technology to have glitches. That's what we hope, that the plates right now is just going through a bit of a glitch phase.
Now, Minister Lisa Thompson wouldn't say much on what the government is doing about these glitches, just that it's accepting feedback. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Toronto.
And some tense moments at Premier Doug Ford's home this afternoon after a suspicious package showed up in the mail. The Premier's office put out a statement saying in part earlier today the Toronto Police Service was called to the Premier's home to investigate a suspicious package received by the Premier's wife. It arrived in the mail earlier today. Police quickly mobilized to assess the situation and cleared the family of any harm. The substance was determined to be a mixture of non-toxic materials. Some Via Rail service will resume this week despite continuing anti-pipeline protests. Beginning Thursday, all trains will run from Toronto to London, Windsor, Sarnia, and Niagara. Via says trains will also run again between Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City. Via passengers who already had one of those trips booked will have their reservations honored. The company says as of yesterday, it has canceled 470 trains due to the protests. Canada's premiers are planning a conference call tomorrow to discuss what to do about the rail disruptions. Many are quite critical about how Prime Minister Trudeau has been handling things. Today, the Prime Minister called for dialogue to end the protests. That received divided reaction from MPs. Julie Van Dusen explains.
It's now nearly 2 weeks that Mohawk protesters sympathetic to Indigenous opponents of a pipeline in northern BC have continued to shut down Canada's rail service. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was back in the House of Commons this morning, calling for calm.
I know that people's patience is running short.
Trudeau says a show of force is not the way to go.
And today, as Prime Minister, I am once again formally extending my hand in partnership and trust.
Conservative leader Andrew Scheer called Trudeau's response weak. He demanded a plan to deal with what he calls the radical activists and end the blockades now.
But nobody, and I mean nobody, has the right to hold our economy hostage, Mr. Speaker.
Demonstrations have popped up in different parts of the country to support some Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs in British Columbia who oppose the Coastal GasLink pipeline. Rail shutdowns have severely impacted the economy. Carolyn Bennett, Minister for Indigenous Relations, was in BC yesterday seeking a meeting with hereditary chiefs, but didn't get one. Perry Bellegarde, the head of the Assembly of First Nations, says the pipeline company, Coastal GasLinks, should get back to the table.
The hereditary chiefs, to my understanding, were put to the side, and that's not acceptable.
There are MPs who want to continue dialogue, and there are MPs who want the police to act. The Prime Minister met today privately to consult with all opposition leaders except for Andrew Scheer, saying that Scheer's comments have disqualified him. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
And some of the country's biggest manufacturers also weighing in on the blockade today, saying it's having a huge effect on business.
Every day the rail blockade continues, over $425 million worth of goods are sitting idle.
If our export customers lose faith in our ability to deliver products in a timely fashion, we lose these customers. And a domino effect is set in motion with far-reaching implications.
Representatives with the Canadian manufacturers and exporters speaking today about the ongoing blockade. They are warning there will be plant closures and layoffs soon if the situation is not resolved. Colette Kennedy's here with a first look at the weather forecasts. So after today's mild temperatures, a bit of a dip tomorrow.
Yes, we are on that downward slide, Mike, when it comes to the temperatures. Don't worry, it doesn't last too long. That's been the kind of winter we've been having. But along with the strong winds we were seeing today as they turn west and then eventually northwesterly coming across Lake Huron, it does mean we get into a situation where around Grey Bruce we have a snow squall watch. So that risk not only tonight and through the day Wednesday, but all the way to about Thursday morning before the winds back off enough, although at times they will let up. So some poor travel conditions. I also like to point that out because it's of note elsewhere too, just in the sense that some of those flurries, watch some of these banners here, these streamers, can make their way down towards the GTA. So we get sunshine and then all of a sudden some cloud cover and a little burst of snow and then it stops. So look for that pattern as we go into tomorrow, along with those temperatures falling off and then eventually those winds ease and we get into a situation with some phenomenal weather. But we got a couple of cold days until we get there. So I'm going to go through all of that coming up tonight. -5, feeling like -12, and tomorrow with some scattered flurries going up to -3. Today we were almost 5 degrees, Mike, so that's a big departure.
Big departure, but wait till we see the weekend. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Well, next time you head to Toronto City Hall, you're going to notice some changes as to where you can and cannot go. It's all part of making the building more secure.
There were, threat assessments that were done by Toronto Police, by Public Safety Canada, and the recommendations coming back were you need to enhance your security at City Hall, whether it's through, a metal detector type setup that we have now or a baggage check setup that we had prior. It was part of, the fact that this is an iconic building.
As of today, visitors can expect extra screening to get into the main atrium, customer service counters, and both the council chamber and committee rooms. This will include going through a metal detector and getting your bag inspected. Now, the changes follow several council votes and public consultations. Good news is screening won't be required to access the main information desk, the library, washrooms, or the City Hall Cafe. Well, we know concerns over COVID-19, the coronavirus, has many restaurants in the GTA seeing a drop in sales. But what about other businesses?
Right now, our entire production floor is awaiting a simple label, which is a beautiful metal piece. We can't go any further until this label comes back in.
Still ahead, how the outbreak is taking a bite out of Toronto companies' bottom lines. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Health officials in Ontario say there are no new cases of COVID-19 under investigation, meaning all but 3 of the 421 cases tested for coronavirus came back negative. Meanwhile, in China, a doctor at the center of the outbreak has died. Wuhan's health bureau announcing today that Liu Jiming became infected and died despite what they call all-out attempts to save him. There was at least the 7th health worker to die of COVID-19 in China. He was just 51 years old. Now, manufacturing in China has taken a big hit as that country deals with the coronavirus. Many plants remain closed, and that's having an effect on businesses here as well. Lorenda Redekop explains.
The jackets are made here in Canada, mostly. One snag, that little piece of branding on the sleeve comes from China, but workers there are still at home, given concerns with COVID-19.
And right now, our entire production floor is awaiting a simple label, which is a beautiful metal piece. We can't go any further until this label comes back in.
International shipments from China are also stalled. It's frustrating for a company that only recently expanded from duvets into also making jackets. This is just one of so many items that Canada brings in from China. Some of the others include everything from electronics and clothing to garlic. And it's a much worse situation than during SARS. One retail expert who I spoke with told me that the amount of exports from China has quadrupled since the early 2000s. Apple just announced yesterday it expects iPhone product shortages around the world. Another way the economy here could suffer: tourism. This is the low season, but flights and group tours from China have been canceled. Chinese tourists make up the largest overseas market for the Toronto area.
The Chinese are our highest spending market. On average, they spend $2,800 a person when they come to Canada. So it really hurts from that perspective because they love going shopping, and particularly high-end luxury shopping. And so a lot of our stores will really feel that lack of sale.
In some cases, stores could struggle to fill shelves, with many items such as zippers and fabrics coming from China.
I have a friend in the jewelry business, and they are close to being out of stock as well. It is literally, the product is sitting in a container along with, I'm sure, tens of thousands of other containers, just waiting their queue to be able to leave the country.
He says this could result in changes long after coronavirus fears are over, with a shift to rely less on one country for so many products, and possibly more manufacturing coming back to Canada. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, you're looking at a live shot of downtown Toronto. There was a warm-up this afternoon, but the temperature has been dropping ever since, -1 right now. How low will it go later this week? Kala Kennedy has those details after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Leafs in Pittsburgh tonight. Watch this play. Sidney Crosby placing a perfect pass on the stick of Brian Rust. The Penguins score first, and they score often, or at least Crosby did, getting an assist as Jason Zucker makes it 3-0 here, then getting a goal himself, keeping the Penguins a perfect 3-for-3 on the power play. Crosby would add another assist for a 4-point night. So what can we say about the Leafs that's positive? Well, they held Pittsburgh scoreless in the third and added a couple of goals. It wasn't enough, though. Toronto loses 5-2. Carla Kennedy's back now with her extended forecast. I'm noticing a trend that I'm kind of liking this winter. Cold midweek, weekends, quite nice.
Yeah, that's the trend we've moved into from what we had earlier, and I think a lot of folks kind of like it this way. We did have that slushy mess this morning, but the temperatures today going up to almost 5 degrees. Now they're going to go in the other direction, but it's only going to be for a few days. Continuing with this trend, though, breezy conditions. Yes, the wind's shifting to the west earlier, and now they're going to head as we go towards tomorrow towards the west-northwest, and with that, yeah, they're gusty at times, not consistently, but enough that we have the snow squall watch I was showing you for Grey Bruce a little bit earlier in the show. Brace yourself then for the cool down, but a lot of sunshine towards the end of the week and into the weekend, and that's what Mike's talking about. We've got a good one coming up. In the meantime, though, because of those winds across the relatively warmer waters of the lake, we get into some squalls here, and some of these at times, see as they vacillate back and forth coming through the GTA, so you could have some sunshine, then a bit of cloud cover, and then all of a sudden a burst of snow. That is certainly the potential we'll have with those northwesterly winds and, of course, the cold air that's going to be driving in here. So as we go towards Thursday morning, even Friday morning, we could get into a situation seeing an extreme cold weather alert coming back into play just because those wind chills will be approaching -20 in those overnight hours. Overnight tonight, though, temperatures actually still staying above seasonal for the most part. We're talking, though, about it feeling like -12, a few flurries coming off the lake, and then there you go into tomorrow afternoon for southwestern Ontario, not quite able to get even up to freezing, but you should have some sunshine there, although a little breezy. Tonight, the lows all around the GTA. Again, closer to -9 is where we should be at this time of year, but it's going to feel pretty chilly, and then those winds carrying on tomorrow. In the afternoon, they let up a little bit, but coming from the west, so our lows, or pardon me, our highs almost seem like lows compared to today, but don't worry too much. There it is, a couple of days where we have those extreme cold temperatures through the overnight and into the morning, -6. That's it for Thursday. But look at the weekend. A big dome of high pressure is going to set up. It's going to settle into place, and the temperatures with the southwesterly breeze are going to be creeping up with sunshine, Mike.
Quite the rebound from today. Okay. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Brampton is facing a huge strain on its social services, especially when it comes to helping out homeless people. It has a handful of shelters, but none of them are dedicated to women. Today, Talia Ricci spent some time with one woman who lives on the street to better understand the challenges she faces.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Joy Bailey. I've been off and on the streets for about 10 years.
Why is it so critical that we don't reveal the location that we're at right now?
Safety reason number one, being on the street, as a woman too.
And the fact that you took like the fur off your head?
Just for safety, because if they see two of us and then we look like men walking down the street, they don't seem to mess with us as much.
Is this like a fairly safe situation here because not a lot of people know about it, or like in this specific spot?
When you're on the streets, people do know word of mouth, and we have people approach us, can we come? We don't want too many people in our spot because then they invite other people, and that will actually have our area just completely blown apart where we won't be able to go back to it. We don't come back until it's dark. Because we don't want the traffic in and out of the places that we're staying.
What are some of the dangers of that?
People knowing where we are. I've actually been robbed. This is the house that we were staying in. Be careful.
Is an abandoned house like this kind of one of the better options?
Oh, there's actually no better option when you're out here. It actually isn't enclosed, so if it rains, we can come back and hang our stuff up, and it kind of dries out during the day.
How many spots have you had?
I would say probably over about 15.
You mentioned that you wake up around 6 a.m. and then you walk to Grace Place?
Yeah, Grace United. They have breakfast, lunches when they have the students on. They have showers.
All right, let's go in. What would be kind of your dream life?
Waking up in the morning and having a cup of tea and turning on the radio. How is it taken for granted for people, but for me, and I'm not going to cry, that would be something.
You mentioned that you think maybe you would get into some sort of like social work. What makes you want to help people down the road?
I think it's because I've been down the road so many times, and I've tripped, I've fallen, I got back up by the help of other people, by the resources that we have out here. So I was thinking, once I get stable, maybe we'll go back to school, figure something out there. Just baby steps until I learn how to walk. And you could crawl, and then you have to learn how to walk again.
Well, that report by Talia Ricci. This is an exhibit full of wonder and magic. Coming up, we'll bring you a sneak peek of the AGO's newest display, the Golden Age of Magic. We'll be right back. The Art Gallery of Ontario is hoping a little magic will appeal to art lovers, specifically a show that looks at the golden age of magic.
It's an extraordinary exhibition of more than 50 great posters from the golden age of magic between 1880 and 1930, when magic was one of the most extraordinary performing arts and forms of entertainment anywhere in North America.
Illusions, the art of magic, will transport you back 100 years to a time of wonder and awe when magicians first started hitting the international stage. Now, from vintage posters to Houdini memorabilia, the exhibit showcases the era where death-defying tricks and daring escapes and colorful personas blossom. Now, visitors at the sneak peek this week also got a chance to see a performance by the Toronto Magic Company. The exhibit officially opens on Saturday and runs until May 17th. Looking forward to checking that out. Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Tomorrow on Q, Tom Power speaks with one of my favorite authors, William Gibson. The man who coined the term cyberspace returns with Agency, new novel about AI and alternate realities. That's tomorrow at 10 on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here at 11. Good night.